Welcome back, Year 5 Osborne. In today's math lesson, we'll be continuing our work with adding and subtracting decimals. You're going to notice that I've labeled the video as number 5, even though this I think is the third video we're doing on adding and subtracting decimals. I did that so that it lines up with what you're going to see in your workbook. It's going to show up as lesson number 5 for adding and subtracting decimals. Our intention today is to add two numbers that have the same number of decimal places, such as 2.56 plus 7.75. Before we start, let's do a little recap of place value. I want you to think about everything you know about place value from the hundredths place up. In fact, pause the video and make notes of what you already know. Alright, I hope you were able to come up with at least a few points about place value. Let's start with the whole numbers, the ones, the tens, and the hundreds, and of course it goes right on up from there. All of these are whole numbers because they include whole units, or ones. The 1 is the smallest whole value. It takes 10 ones to make a 10, and it takes 10 tens to make 100. So, as we've discussed many times in the past, as you move to the left, each place gets 10 times greater in value. What about when we move to the other side of the decimal point? Well, that's where we whip out our magnifying glass. Because remember, tenths and hundredths are smaller than 1. So it's like we have to take that little unit, that 1 square, and zoom in on it and imagine that we're just looking at 1/10 of it, like we've cut it into 10 pieces, and we're just taking one of those 10 pieces, as you see in the green. If we go from a tenth to a hundredth, we have to take all those tenths and cut them into 10 smaller pieces. Then we take one of those smaller pieces, as you can see. So a hundredth ends up being 1 out of 100 small pieces. It takes 100 of those little pieces to make one whole. So if we start from the hundredths place and move to the left, it becomes 10 times greater each time. 10 hundredths makes a tenth. 10 tenths makes 1, and so on. Let's look at how this translates to a number line. This number line that you see now just goes from 0 to 1. So it only covers one whole unit, but you probably noticed that it's split up into 10 equal parts. So if I have the number 1 unit, and it's split up into 10 equal parts, what has it been split into? It's been split into tenths. So now we can count 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 1. So now we can see on a number line why it is that it takes 10 tenths to make one whole. What about hundredths? Well, here's that same number line, but I've removed all the labels to make it a little less confusing, because now we know what each of those lines is worth. As you can see, between 0 and 0.1, I've split it into 10 smaller sections. Why? Well, because it takes 10 hundredths to make 1/10, just as we learned from our place value chart. So what does each of those little red lines represent? It represents 1/100th. So let's zoom in on those hundredths. So now when we're looking at those little red lines, we're focusing on numbers that come between 0 and 0.1. Remember, 1/100th is written as 0.01. So I'm going to have to count in that way. So watch as I do it. 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, 0.04, 0.05, 0.06, 0.07, 0.08, 0.09, and then 0.1. You can also think of 0.1 as 0.10 or 0.10, although we never say 0.10. But that helps you see the pattern. It's like going from 1 straight through to 10. That pattern would then continue. Can you guess what would come after 0.1? 0.11, and then 0.12. It's like going from 0.01, all the way up. So it's like seeing 11, then 12, then 13. Each time we add a hundredth, we're adding one more to that hundredths place. So now that we've seen how to identify tenths and hundredths on a number line, can you guess or estimate What numbers are shown by these arrows? Well, first it's important to notice that these numbers are somewhere between 0 and 1. That means they're less than a whole. So let's start by identifying the tenths that they fall under. For that first arrow, I see that it comes just after 0.2. So I'm dealing with 0.2 blank. For that second arrow, I see that it comes after 0.7, and it's quite close to 0.8. So this is going to be 0.7 blank. That takes care of my tenths, but let me now zoom in to try to identify the hundredths. With those markers in place, I can now see that that first arrow is pointing at the second hundredth. So that means I have 2 tenths and 2 hundredths. So I'm dealing with 0.22. For the second number, I see that the arrow is pointing to the ninth hundredth. So I have 7 tenths and 9 hundredths. So it's 0.79. All right, now that we've gotten warmed up with the number line, let's move on to the textbook.
All right, year 5. So you should be seeing an image of the textbook on the left-hand side of your screen. So I'm starting with the Discover. Question 1. It's based on that picture that you're seeing of Max and Jamie in the cafeteria. Max says he only has 4 pounds. Jamie says, my meal costs 1 pound 35 pence more than yours. So this information is going to be important for us to answer these questions that follow. A. Max wants to buy a pizza and a juice. Does he have enough money? Well, Max says he has 4 pounds. A pizza costs 2 pounds 96 pence. And a juice costs 1 pound and 4 pence. Notice I immediately put my addition sign. Why? Well, because I have to add these two values together to find out how much they cost in all. If they are more than 4 pounds, then he doesn't have enough money. If it's less or the same as 4 pounds, then he does have enough money. 6 plus 4 is 10. Carry my 1. 1 plus 9 is 10. Carry my 1. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. So a pizza and a juice cost exactly 4 pounds. So my answer to A, does he have enough money, is yes. He has enough money. What about B? It asks, what is the total cost of Jamie's meal? Well, Jamie said that her meal costs 1 pound 35 pence more than Max's. So if it's more, that means I'm going to have to add again. So Max's was 4 pounds. Jamie's is an additional 1 pound 35 pence. And so if it's additional, that means I'm adding. I can actually do this one in my head because I can see there's no regrouping. 5, 3, 5. Her meal is going to cost 5 pounds 35 pence. So that's my final answer. I'll put it over here and underline it. So this was just basic addition to solve these problems. Now for the Think Together portion. It says, here are some items for sale in a supermarket. And it shows me the different items and how much each of them costs. How much do these items cost in total? For A, it asks me for bananas and melon. And then it shows me exactly what I need to do to figure out the total cost. I have to add both values together. And they've even stacked it for me. All I have to do now is carry out the addition. 4 cents plus 5 cents, or pence in this case because it's pounds and pence. I get 9. 3 and 1, or 30 pence and 10 pence, 4 or 40. And then 2 pounds plus 2 pounds, 4 pounds. I noticed for this, I didn't have to do any regrouping. Everything just carried straight down, nothing had to go over to the next place. Let's try the next one, which deals with pears and cherries. A bag of pears costs 1 pound 70 pence. And a bag of cherries costs 3 pounds 57 cents. So let me add those up. 7 and 5 is 12. So I put my 2, carry over my 1. 1 plus 1 plus 3 is 5. So in total, it costs £5 27 pence. So I see for this problem, again, all I had to do was add because I was looking for totals. Now for question 2 under Think Together. It asked me to work out the missing numbers. For A, it shows me this part-whole model where I have the two parts and I need to figure out what the whole is. So if it's given me the parts and I know that these two add up to make the whole, all I have to do is add them together. 2.9 plus 3.7. 9 plus 7 is 16, so I put my 6, carry over my 1. I put back my decimal point. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. So, by adding up the parts, I found out that the whole is 6.6. B is exactly the same thing. It's another type of part-whole model. The top blank row is the whole, and underneath are the two parts. Together, the two parts make the same thing as the whole. That's why they're the same size. So that means if I do 2.453 plus 5.232, I'll find the total value of the missing part on top because it's just these two numbers added together. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. 4 plus 2 is 6. Put back my decimal point. 2 plus 5 is 7. So the missing value on top is 7.685. Now for C. They try and make C look really tricky, but it's actually not. It says 6 ones, 3 tenths, and 4 hundredths, plus 7 ones, 2 tenths, and 9 hundredths is equal to blank tens, blank ones, blank tenths, and blank hundredths. If you try and solve it just like that, you're going to get confused. What you need to do is write it down in numerals. So let's take it one number at a time. So the first number is 6 ones. So I'm going to write that. I'm going to put it down here. I just want to skip a line so I'm not running into that. 6 ones, 3 tenths, and 4 hundredths. Okay. So 6 ones, 3 tenths, 4 hundredths. The next number, which I'm adding to it because it says plus, is 7 ones, 2 tenths, and 9 hundredths. And then it asks me what it's equal to. So if I add them like this, I can figure it out. 4 plus 9 is going to give me 13. So I'll put my 3 and carry over my 1. 1 plus 3 plus 2 is 6. I put back my decimal point. 6 plus 7 is 13. All right, so my final answer is 13.63, but it asked me to write it in a different form. It wants to know how many tens, how many ones, how many tenths, and how many hundredths. Well, I just take this. There's a 1 in the tens place, so it's 1 10, 3 ones, 6 tenths, because that's the tenths place, and finally 3 hundredths. So all they've done is broken it down into its expanded form and mixed it with word form because of course we're writing 10, ones, hundredths to find the final answer. Finally, the challenge. It says there, Jamila buys 3 items. She pays exactly £12. A, which items did she choose? And then they show us the items and how much they cost. The eraser is 94 cents. The marbles, £3 15 pence. Sorry, I said cents. It's supposed to be pence. £2 38 pence for the ruler. For the little notepad, it's £4 26 pence. And for the color pencils, it's £6 47 pence. Now, at the side, Astrid has given us a huge clue. She said, I'm going to add the last digits and see if any add up to 0. The reason she's doing that is because 12 pounds is like having 12 wholes, or 1 10, 2 ones, and no tenths, no hundredths. There's nothing, no sense. If I'm going to figure out exactly what she bought, which 3 items, the last digits must add up to give 0 in the hundredths place. If they don't, they can't be the items that she chose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the last digit on all these values. Got 4, 6, 5, 7, and 8. And I'm going to check which of those digits I can add together and get 0. And when I say 0, I really mean that I'm going to get a 10 and have to carry 1 over. All right, let's see. I might get a 10 or I might get a 20, let me put it that way. But so long as there's going to be a 0 in the hundredths place. Okay, if I did 4 plus 6, I get 10. But remember, she's buying 3 items. So can I add anything else? No, that would make 15, that would make 18, that would make 17. No. What if she did 4 plus 5? That makes 9. I would either need a 1 or I'd need, that's all that would work, a 1. And there's no 1, so it can't be that. What about 4 and 8? 4 plus 8 makes 12. So I'd need another 8 to get to 0 in the hundredths place, because it would give me 20 and I don't have any more 8s. Okay, 4 and 7, that makes 11. So I would need a 9 and I don't have any 9s. Okay, so right away I can tell this number's out of it. That's not going to help me get there. What about 5 and 8? That makes 13, so I'd need a 7. 5 plus 8, yeah, that's 13, plus 7. That would get me to 20, so that would give me a 0 there. Let me try this now. 3.15, 2.38, 6.47. So as you can see, solving this problem is really just trial and error. You just have to test a bunch of stuff out and see which one works. 5 plus 8 is 13, plus 7 is 20. Put my 0, carry my 2, because I said it was 20. 2, 0, 20. 2, 3, 6, 10. Still looking good, so I put my 0, carry my 1. So I need this to add up to 12 now. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 6 is 12. So it does add up. So that means these are the 3 items that she bought. She got the marbles, the ruler, and the color pencils. Those add up to exactly 12 pounds. All right, what about the second part of the challenge, B? It says there, when added together, 2 of the items cost exactly the same as another 2 items. Well, I can look back up here and do my same process again, because if they're going to add up to the exact same thing, that must mean they're going to have the same digit at the end. So let's see, which groups can I put together and end up with the same last 2 digits? 4 plus 6 would give me a 0 at the end because it makes 10. Is there anything else that adds up to make a 0 at the end? No. 4 plus 5 would give me a 9 at the end. Would anything else give me a 9? Nope. 8 and 5 gives me a 3 at the end because it makes 13. Anything else give me a 3 at the end? 7 plus 6, look. 5 and 8 makes 13. 6 and 7 also makes 13. So let me check if when I add these up, they give me the same value. I think I'm about to run out of camera space. So if this suddenly cuts off, sorry you guys, you got to work the rest of this out on your own. 238, and then I'm going to add up 4, 2, 6, plus 6, 4, 7. You know what? I am definitely about to run out of camera space. So what I want you guys to do is figure it out below. Work it out yourself, and in the comments tell me, does this have the same value as this? All right, Year 5, time now for independent work. It comes from your workbook, which you should all have a copy of now. It's pages 18, 19, and 20. In case you don't remember, although we've talked about it many times at school, if you find the challenge too difficult, you are not required to do it. The challenge is an extension to deepen your learning, but it's not mandatory. That means it's not required. I do expect everyone to do everything on page 18, and everything on page 19, and the reflection, but the challenge is optional. As always, stay safe and I'll see you soon.